Discover South Carolina presents The Palmetto Porch, a podcast featuring some of the most uniquely charming destinations across the Palmetto State. I'm Devin Whitmire. Join me as I find out what's off the beaten path as I speak to South Carolina locals who know their towns best. Find The Palmetto Porch wherever you get your podcasts. And for more information about our show, visit scpalmettoporch.com.
The new Chevy Silverado HD puts you in command. Own strength with its enhanced available Duramax 6.6-liter turbo diesel V8. Own the lake with its available advanced towing technology. And own technology with an available 13.4-inch diagonal touchscreen. The new Chevy Silverado HD. Own work, own play, own life. Learn more at Chevy.com. Find new roads. Chevrolet.
Hey everyone, welcome to Webcology here on WMR.fm. It's, May the 4th be with you. It's May the 4th, 2023. This is Jim Hedger from Digital Always Media, Kristine Shachinger from Sites Without Walls, and we have a show today that straddles the AI world, the search world, a lot of new concerns raised around AI, as well as a lot of really interesting new use cases around AI, and tons of new announcements from Google. Just a quick reminder, 57 days, 10 hours, and 0 minutes from now, Universal Analytics stops recording and Google Analytics 4 takes over. So as anyone who's looked at their Google Analytics profiles recently, have you logged into Google Analytics recently, Kristine?
Not the new version.
Well, if you go to Universal Analytics, just log into Google Analytics, you get met with a countdown clock.
Yes. Yeah.
If you want to scare somebody, give them a countdown clock, because we are 57 days, 9 hours, and 55 minutes away from Universal Analytics dodoing itself.
Yeah, and it must be a lot of people are not moving over because they've offered to do it for you. They have been giving you reminders, and now they have a countdown clock. So must be a lot of people that have not moved over yet.
I think Google is getting the message that people aren't happy with with the new Google Analytics 4. So much so that they've today announced that for everybody, regardless, it doesn't matter if you're on the enterprise suite or you're on the free version that 99.9% of everybody uses, historic data is going to be available for 1 year. 1 year after they close it down, so everybody's got access to historic data. If you're on the premium suite, Universal Analytics GA3, the one that you're currently using, will keep recording stuff, but they want you on GA4, the new Google Analytics. And if you're on the free service, you will be on Google Analytics 4. They'll make the account for you, like Kristine said. They'll take all the settings you have now, for good or for ill, and port them over. Now, here's the catch. You might want to check your conversion settings, because they have different metrics mean slightly different things in the different environments. So if Google's going to be setting up the GA4 account from your UA3 settings, it mightn't be exactly what you want.
Yeah, I also heard that there's some issues, and I don't know what they are. I'd have to look into it, but some issues with the way Google sets it up. So you may want to look into that before you do that. And if you want to keep all your historic data, there are other analytics programs out there that will import in your historic data, which could be important in the future. So you might want to look into those as well as a secondary analytics.
Tell you what, it's going to be awfully important this time next year.
Yes. Exactly. And because we just went through the pandemic, the last 2 years data that you have is not that useful. So having your historic data, if you have a company with a long history, is going to be more helpful because you're going to want that data from 2019, early 20, maybe even 18, 17, even farther back than that, because 2020 to 2022 are definitely way off because so many people are at home, and even part of 2023 is not 100% normal. So
Well, actually, I'm pretty
yeah.
sure everything since 2008 has been pretty damn abnormal. But I get what you're coming at. It just occurred to me as you were saying that historians in the future. My first major at university was in histories, and historians in the future are going to just be overwhelmed with like behavior data um, from this time, from the pandemic time. Just this, what an amazing study. Just found in Google UA historic data, which Google is a really good reason for you to let all of us have it forever. So we can make it available to researchers in the future, just like you'd want
Oh,
us to.
there you go.
It's a good argument, eh?
Good argument.
I think so. But Google's got some serious challenges ahead of it. We all do. Search or AI is changing things so rapidly, and it's so ubiquitous and it's so everywhere that it's really hard to tell what is and isn't AI influence anymore. And it's only been like what?
6 months.
6 months, yeah, since AI was introduced in the public sphere. The godfather of AI, Geoffery Hinton. He, I mean, listen, his concerns are so manifest that he quit his job at Google, where he was leading a machine learning research. He quit his job at Google just so that he could speak out about the dangers of AI. Though it's worth noting, he's going out of his way to suggest Google is being more responsible with its use of AI than others. But
Yeah.
I mean, the godfather of AI is really worried about the future of, well, the rapid development of generative AI products is a race towards danger. That, well, like I said just a few minutes ago, it's hard to tell what is and isn't AI influenced, what is and isn't true anymore.
Yeah, and for people who don't know his history, he's the person who developed the basis for any of the current generative AI, like the ChatGPT. And how long has he been doing this? Since like
Since
the
the 90s.
90s. So the first, there was a very interesting interview, if anyone wants to look it up, on CBS this morning, on their, I think it's their Sunday edition with him.
It's a
about
40-minute interview.
Yeah, and it talks about the whole history, like especially like large language models. I didn't know came out in like the 80s. I had no idea. So it's very interesting. But he wanted to be very clear in his Twitter post that, like you said, that he feels Google is doing things responsibly, and we've talked about that in the past, but that he didn't leave because Google wouldn't let him talk, but he didn't want to have anything that he says affect Google, his employer. So that's why he left the job, so that he could speak without causing any harm to them because he's working for them. So he didn't want people to think he was told he couldn't speak.
Kristine mentioned a 40-minute long video that CBS Morning filmed with him. I think the film was back from early March. It's so absolutely worth watching just to understand Hinton's history, the history of the branches of machine learning and artificial intelligence that he pioneered and where they have gone to. And in fact, his protege is partially responsible for OpenAI. One of his proteges is one of the lead developers of OpenAI. And again, he outlines his concerns so well, and I really, really, really wish I had watched that video before I wrote my email to him requesting our interview with him, because he wrote back a terse two-word reply, too busy. And I understand why. But he did write back, which was really sweet. Most people don't.
No, most don't. And interesting. Also, a former OpenAI researcher also came out this week to kind of say the same thing Hinton is, maybe in a slightly different way. But his name is Cristiano, and he runs the nonprofit Alignment Research Center, and he ran the language model alignment team at OpenAI, and then he has somebody else who is speaking out too from that group, and I'm sure I cannot say the name properly. It's Eliezer Yudkowsky, Yudkowsky, but both of them, both groups, Hinton and then also Christiana and his people, have come out to say that AI will probably kill all humans. It's like, I've seen this in multiple researchers. His probability of that is low, 10 to 20%. I've seen researchers who have said they believe it's 100% at some point. I didn't understand why they thought this, because hey, can't we just shut it all down? But apparently, if we get to not what we have now, which is just like text models, if we get into generative AI intelligence, it would be able to suck up all the world's information, and it could actually get outside the computer system into biosystems, which is just crazy.
Theoretically, if it starts to be able to write its own code and then is able to insert its own code into other operating systems, then yes, it could.
Well,
But
actually, the one researcher was talking using CRISPR,
which would be incredible. Then it's into every living system that exists. But again, that's all theoretical.
Right? Yeah, it's theoretical, but
all this has to be thought about, and it hasn't been thought about, and that's perhaps the crux of the greatest sets of concerns about how AI is developing, how rapidly it's developing, and well, it's kind of developing without training wheels or guardrails. Much so that there's a meeting happening today at the White House. Vice President Kamala Harris and the chief execs of Alphabet's team, Google's team, and Microsoft's OpenAI and Anthropic teams are meeting with Harris and the administration to talk about issues around AI.
Yeah, they're talking about what they can do to do things like keep bias out of it, and what they should do to regulate it, how they should, what controls they should put on it, and how they can also maybe even slow it down. So it's the first step, but there is an open commentary or public opinion, where you can public comment on things that the White House is considering. And so people can make public comment based on what they think about it. But yeah, they definitely see that it's necessary. We both know that, this is definitely something that has to be looked at. But they will discuss key artificial intelligence issues today. And so we'll see what happens. But they are looking at they are seeking public comment on their accountability measures for AI systems. Boy, I'm tripping over my own tongue today.
Something I find really interesting. My first thought was, oh my goodness, these people don't even understand how the internet works. But by and large, maybe they do, maybe they don't. But right now, or I guess 6 months ago, most of us were at ground zero at the emergence hour of what is to the vast majority of the people a very brand new technology that they had read about in science fiction but hadn't considered in their real lives. It's in their real lives now. So we're all kind of these people who, quote unquote, don't even know how the internet works. You want some of the Senate hearings, and it's just terrifying to think that they legislate on the environment we work in. But in this case, with AI, we're kind of all at the same starting point with different degrees of understanding, perhaps, but it's all hitting us fresh at the same time. All the implications, the fears, the promises, etc. So maybe we'll have better understandings coming from administration officials.
Well, where this started is the National Telecommunications, I cannot speak today, National Telecommunications and Information Administration, a Commerce Department agency who advises the White House on telecommunications, wanted input on the growing regulatory interest in the AI accountability mechanism. They want to know if there's measures that could be put in place to provide assurance that AI systems are legal, effective, ethical, safe, and otherwise trustworthy. They know that they could bring big benefits, but also there's going to be huge potential for harm. And so that's what kind of got this started. And I do think by bringing in, the White House, by bringing in all the major players right now in this industry, they're definitely seeking to understand it in a proper way. That doesn't mean when it gets down to the making laws about it stage that'll be the same. We know some people don't understand how email works, but from one congressional hearing. But it is at least a step in the right direction. Also coming out of this, GPT-5 is not going to be worked on right now.
Well, yeah. They stopped trading it. They stopped working with it. What have they done? They've sandboxed it effectively.
Basically, they apparently, from comments made by Sam Altman, he's starting to realize the implications. So they're going to continue to work on GPT-4, but not GPT-5. In fact, they totally halted any work on 5. And the reason is a letter that was written, was it last month or the month before, where all these 1,000 people came out, academics, researchers, people in the field, saying we need to put a pause. They were worried about GPT-5 because GPT-5 they thought would be artificial generational.
Generational artificial intelligence that could be that unstoppable force.
Yes, it could suck up all the world's information, and then we start on down the path of does it destroy us? We don't know yet. So that was the one that they're really concerned with. It's called AGI. So it's not about generative text, which is Mad Libs with semantics. This is stuff that could like write code and act on its own and would have more intelligence than any one human being on Earth, and could do it, could access everything in an instant, and how rapidly that could advance, and we wouldn't even be able to control it. So that's why people were worried, and that's why they wrote the petition to slow it down. So apparently he has now heard those concerns and has decided maybe it is not a good idea right now to work on 5.
That's most interesting.
Yeah.
I guess, I could see the position Altman put himself in. And he's working in a how to say this. He's almost like he's painted into a corner by the Frankenstein of his own creation, eh? Like it's so potentially powerful. I still have every belief that we can work on these technologies and control them, although I'm very much leaning towards they need to be regulated before we go much further. And when you have people like FTC chairperson Lena Khan noting or musing perhaps that there is no quote unquote AI exemption in existing laws, it kind of gives pause. So what that means is there's nothing in existing laws that talks about what can be done with AI.
Well, no, it also means that, but it also means that any current law, it applies to AI. So if it's biased, let's say you decide to use AI in hiring process and it has bias, you're afoul of the law.
You're still bound to federal law.
Yeah, exactly. So you might try, let's say you want to use it for legal documents or for hiring or for, grading tests, whatever. And it's determined that it somehow ran afoul of the laws like, racial bias or any of the protected statuses or whatever it happens to be. They will come after you just the same as if a human being did the thing. So it's as I always say, my problem with how people are approaching this is they're using it to replace humans or replace work. Use it as an assistant, that's great, but there should always be human oversight and there should always be human input, because otherwise you could find yourself a foul of the law and in court and you're like, well, the AI did it, and FTC is like, we don't care.
But if you're Altman et al., your tool did that, and even if your lawyers get you out of responsibility some way or another, it's going to be real expensive. And it can there's a whole slew of problems that I'm sure that I'm sure they can see that they can work to avoid. Just if there was only some technology they could ask ahead of time what pitfalls might we fall into here?
I have a feeling though, I've worked in startup environments, and when people are like really excited about a product and they got all excited and they couldn't get funding, so let's release it to the world because, hey, what could happen? And they didn't really think about what could happen. I'm just saying that from a personal view. I don't know that for a fact, but judging from his backtracking lately, I don't think they gave full thought, like did the whole chess game out in their minds of what could happen. And so now it's been released and now we have to deal with it. And you're right, he painted himself into a corner because, I mean, there's even been a death associated with somebody conversing with ChatGPT who committed suicide after the conversation. So there are massive ramifications that have to be considered with technology this new, unregulated, and without guardrails. And I just don't think they were considered before it was released. And now people are having to consider them.
So, you might sit back and ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen in this or that situation? How about not having any entertainment for quite a while, or any fresh entertainment for quite a while? The AI is everywhere, including the writer's room, and there's the writer's strike. The writers union is on strike again, and
The new Chevy Silverado HD puts you in command. Own strength with its enhanced available Duramax 6.6-liter turbo diesel V8. Own the lake with its available advanced towing technology. And own technology with an available 13.4-inch diagonal touchscreen. The new Chevy Silverado HD. Own work, own play, own life. Learn more at Chevy.com. Find new roads. Chevrolet.
I think this is the first time in 15 years, but I remember 15 years ago, the impact that the writer's strike had was manifest. It was massive. And this time AI plays a fairly big role in a couple of the concerns that the writers have moving forward. And what the writers are concerned about, tech workers and other creatives should also look at and think about how what the writers union is looking at might be applicable to their sectors and their careers as well. You saw that story in Mashable, or the other one that I think was in sorry, there was the Mashable story and the TechCrunch story. The studios are literally thinking about, you remember how we've said, if you're going to be making content and you're going to be using AI, go for it, but make sure a human edits it. The studios are suggesting that perhaps they should be using AI to write sitcoms and write TV content and have writers edit it by the hour. And that pretty much kills the careers of all the writers who make the content that we watch in what's been considered one of the most golden ages of television in television history. One of the writers likened it to the Uberification of high-level writing. I think that's a concern. I think that
So one of the writers in that article quoted, C. Robert Cargill, put it well. He said, the immediate fear of AI isn't that us writers will have our work replaced by artificially generated content. It's that we will be underpaid to rewrite that trash into something we could have done better from the start. This is what the WGA is opposing and the studios want. So studios, being big corporations, want to save as much money as possible and think that, ChatGPT can write it just fine as long as they have some editors in there. And that's one of the things in their proposal, that's not allowed, so that they in their proposal they want to regulate the use of artificial intelligence on MBA covered products. That's the Guild's minimum basic agreement. And AI, it says AI can't write or rewrite literary material, can't be used as source material, and MBA covered material can't be used to train AI. I'm fine with that, because truly, do you really want a bunch of like shows that are like, write something like Seinfeld, but not Seinfeld. Let's stage it here. And ChatGPT writes it all. Like,
Actually,
I
to be quite
admire.
honest, I'm sick of shows like that. I've found most
Exactly.
of my life the entertainment industry has been populated by that exact kind of thinking, and I do not want to see machines do that in place of humans.
Exactly. I like a show because like, oh, this writer wrote it. Like, could you imagine West Wing not being written by, oh my gosh, his name just slipped my mind and he's amazing.
If Aaron Sorkin
Yes,
didn't
thank
have
you.
pounds and pounds and pounds of cocaine hanging around his writing room,
Probably.
we
Probably.
wouldn't have great shows like The West Wing. And you know what? That's probably true. But the coke part, not the.
Yeah, yeah, we're just joking. But the
But the
truth
human
is
made
like
that. That was incredibly
yeah.
creative, and a machine could not have written that writing.
No, because the people have to remember the large language models is which we're talking about. They're not really AI. They just fall under the umbrella of AI. They can only summarize and synthesize what already exists. It's not like they're going to create something new and innovative. You're not going to get Breaking Bad out of ChatGPT, right? So, but the studios won't care if they can get enough people to watch it. The writers' fears, I think, are well founded. If the studio could get 10 million people to
Oh,
watch something, they
indeed,
didn't have to pay to write.
they're absolutely well
Yeah.
funded. I think teachers should be afraid of this. I think that software developers should be worried. I think everybody who has made a career out of putting their brains to the keyboard needs to be concerned about somebody trying to save money, make money by saving money off of what we ourselves would have done. Now, here's the thing, it's going to happen. um, Even with regulation, the nature of our economy dictates that those with the means of production will do their damnedest to save money at every stage of production because that's how they make money.
But could we just say though, there is another factor in that we always forget about. And I
Mm,
know it's a pipe dream, but still,
mm.
the people that buy the content can refuse to support the capitalist corporations who want to exploit the writers and make them rewrite ChatGPT to save themselves a buck. And by the way, I think the like 6 biggest Hollywood people made something like $700 million in salary last year. So it's not
That's
like they
not, by the way,
can't
that's not a
afford
pipe dream. What you're saying isn't a pipe dream. People will pay for good content. They will pay for premium content. HBO proved that years ago. If it's something that and every content creator, every YouTuber out there, every TikToker out there, everyone who again puts their brains to the keyboard for a living, you got to up your game, no question about that. There's going to be a lot more craptastic content being pumped onto the web. Like I can't even imagine how much is going to be put out there.
right?
But if you make it better, you know what? Here's an example. I'm fascinated with history. There's a series of lectures on Roman history that I find extraordinary, mostly because of the way the lecturer phrases the history. It's simple, Livy. I mean, if you've read Livy, you understand this history. But this guy, the way he does it is so compelling. I'd listen to this guy read the phone book because he'd make it funny, make it interesting.
Very cool.
Roman history, believe me, is not always funny or compelling. Sometimes it's quite dry and boring. But this lecturer has found a way to make me listen to the entire history of Rome. You can do that, but you got to be good at it and you got to up your game. That's what AI is going to do to the writers. But how their union settles this strike with the corporations will dictate how software developers get treated in the future, or
Well, and how
SEOs for
many
that
will
matter.
yeah, well, yeah, that's a whole different thing, right? But yeah, I think that I think the WGA's requests are reasonable. I support them. I'm gonna miss my late night television, but I find that it's better to support the real writers and than to like side with let's replace them all with ChatGPT. So hopefully they can come to an agreement soon. But I think that their AI requests are pretty basic. You know, don't use our content to train, don't rewrite our content with AI, and don't expect us to edit it for $8 an hour. You know, so.
Indeed, and I hope they hold out. I hope they win. I have a hard time seeing their content not being used to train AI in the future, because it's going to be. But and they're going to be mad at it. They should get paid for it.
I have a feeling that there's going to be a time in the near future where you're going to have some way to opt out of being trained on. I could be wrong, but I think that's going to be one of the basic things that the government is probably going to legislate, like some tag on your content, or some, like, you know, like we can tell Google not to index a page by putting a no index tag or putting it in the robots text. I have a feeling.
Where's Lawrence Lessing when we need him?
So I have a feeling there's something that's going to come out to that effect. I could be wrong, but that's my thought.
Okay, you know what? We got to jump onto Google. We've been half a show on AI, and
I know, but it was
Google is AI, really, but but there's a whole bunch of other stuff that's happened at Google.
Wait, before Google, can we do the one quick thing on Elon Musk and NPR?
It's so dirty when I talk about Elon Musk. It's just gross. Okay, yeah, go for it. Please go for it. Let's get it out of the way.
Get it out of the way, because this could happen to anybody, so people should be aware, especially if you have a corporate brand. So NPR was tagged with a, well, he changed it a couple times, but basically he tried to insinuate that NPR didn't have editorial control over its content, and the government tells them what to write, which is 100% not true. And their government funding is 1%, and it's through grants. But so they decided they're no longer going to tweet from their accounts. Like,
much like many other public broadcasters, by the way, CBC, BBC, Australian Broadcasting, all of them have removed themselves from Twitter.
Exactly. And I believe, I'd have to check this to be sure, but I believe I read that NPR has something around 10 million like followers or active users, something of that nature. So Elon Musk sent out a notice to them this week. If they don't start tweeting, he's just going to give away their ID, their brand. So anyone could pick up NPR and be NPR's brand, with all, of course, the historical content in there as well. So so just be aware that I don't think he could get away with it legally. I think in court he'd probably lose, because there's things around branding online that help protect your brands. But you know, he could, and so you should just be aware that that he could just decide to give away your moniker one day because you're not tweeting if you're a big enough brand.
Which I think is, you know what, the courts will deal with that. That's definitely actionable.
Yeah.
There's so much intellectual property and brand that is tied up in what was essentially the public square. Making a threat like that is extraordinary. And the weirdest thing is, you know, Musk. The frustrating thing about Musk is I actually understand the way he thinks. His formative years were actually spent in Toronto and Montreal in Canada. I get the attitude, like totally. I do. He just doesn't see every dimension, the importance of the veracity of information. He understands the absurdity of information, most certainly. And
you know that
let's face it, most of the information passed around about the way we do things in this world is freaking absurd. It's stupid. At its heart, it's just dumb. And he gets that and exploits it. But he doesn't understand how important truth amongst that absurdity is.
Especially on Twitter. Twitter is definitely a place where truth was supposedly, you know, prevalent. Like, you could talk to the news reporter, you could talk to the publication, you could talk to the celebrity, and they're actually saying their own words, right? And they're not hearing it from somebody else. You know, it's an interesting thing. As people gain power, they've done studies on this, their empathy centers decrease. They have to be very cautious, like to keep your empathy centers going strong when you have a lot of money or power. So I just think that could be a play too. I don't think he understands human beings very well at this point. I don't think he's able to empathize.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So Musk did something incredibly stupid and very possibly actionable if he actually does it. But he does that every day. Good God. This is just a big one.
Yeah, because most things he gets away with because it's just like the SEC slaps him with a fine. In this case, he's threatening to take a brand away. And unfortunately, NPR would have to waste money in court. But hopefully he'll just back off that, because it was anytime he gets a lot of backlash, he tends to back off the thing that he was going to do.
Yep.
So hopefully he does that, because NPR provides a very good service. In
Most
reporting.
cowards are like that. They threaten a lot of stuff, and then when it comes down
Yeah.
to actually pulling the trigger, they don't.
Yeah, exactly.
With lawsuits at any rate. Okay, this one's fun. Let's Elon Musk is going to bury himself within the next 3 years. 100%
Oh, you give it
gonna
that long?
happen.
I was thinking a year. Just because he's sold so much of his wealth and his fortune to maintain Twitter. He's down to 13% ownership in Tesla.
What is definitely threatened, but around to stay pretty much forever, is Google. And I want to jump to all the Google stories because they're so much more fun.
There is
This one I love. This one I love, especially because of the way Google's doing it. Google's released 8 new top-level domains. .com, .net, .biz, .ca, .co.uk, etc. Top-level domains, TLDs. These ones are .dad, .phd, .prof, .esquire for the lawyer in you, .foo, .zip, .mov, and .nexus. .mum has been available since 2015, but the 8 ones are important, and the reason they're important is they're available to register as of today. But, and here's the important thing: there's the moment. Okay, so you can imagine the moment a new top-level domain comes available. Best.dad becomes like really, really valuable, right? Something like that. Greatest dad becomes like incredibly valuable just because it's a phrase. So if you want in today at 2 hours ago, 2.5 hours ago, it will cost you $11,500 plus $30 a year for the domain. If you get in tomorrow at 12 p.m., it'll cost you $3,500 plus $30 a year for the domain.
I think we're off a day. Today is the 4th.
Oh, I'm sorry if you got in yesterday. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So if you get in today, it's
okay.
3,500. You missed greatest.dad. So did I. If you get in tomorrow, it's 1150. If you get in on the 6th, it's 350 plus 30 a year. On the 5th, 125 plus 30 a year. I'm sorry, on the 8th, that's 125 plus 30 a year. And if you can hold out until the 10th, it's free, $30 a year, but you won't have to pay to be among the first to get the access to these top level domains. So if you did it yesterday, you'd have pick a whatever you wanted, dad, .phd, .prof, .esquire, etc. Bob Law, .esquire.
It's kind of unfortunate though, really, because in early days of the internet, anybody could register anything, right? So it means only people who have a decent amount of money could get in on any of these early phases, and they're going to buy up all the most important names.
For what it's worth, back in the day, back in the early and mid 90s, it was really expensive to register a domain. It wasn't cheap. I remember, because I couldn't afford it, but I remember thinking, oh my God, this is a real estate boom and I need to jump in on this. And this is a real estate boom, which is hence the incredible price to get in early.
Here's just an SEO question for you. We've been doing these domains, specialized domains, for years now, right? Mm-hmm. How many of them do you ever see rank really well? And I know there's supposedly no issue with them ranking. I see .ios. I really don't see many of the others ever rank.
I think it's mostly the way they've been used, though, not so much their existence. Because I mean, why shouldn't they rank well? I've seen .biz's rank.
Well, there was a time when there was a ranking preference, but that's supposedly been gone for a long time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There was also a time when Google would absolutely use the TDL for say localization or for sectoralization.
Exactly.
But that .edu doesn't mean anything anymore, right? Like anybody can get a .edu. Heck.
Sadly, that's our fault. So many of us use it for links. So
So the top level domains, I think Google still extracts a little bit of information from, especially from where they were registered, not necessarily what they say, but where they were registered, because Google itself is a registrar. So once you register a domain, Google can look at everything about the registration.
right.
Um, uh, 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 so again, they should, but I see no reason why they shouldn't, except people will link to, there are a lot more .coms. People link to .coms, you know what I mean? There's just, chances are most businesses that are out there are already established, so they're on a .com. And so the links all go back to the .com, and there go, the .com ranks, right?
True.
So give
I
it
do
time.
think I do think it, and I'm referring to the article in Search Engine Journal. I believe, is this a Roger article? Yeah, it's Roger wrote. There is a potential security issue with two of the domains, and it is curious why they chose those, because
Oh,
.mov and .zip are extensions, right?
yeah, that's true. I saw, yeah, indeed.
Yeah, so why would you create a domain TLD that is the same ending as an extension would be? Like, is this a zip file or is this a domain someone's sending?
Yeah,
Because you
you
could
know what?
easily like get people to click on, bad domains thinking it's just a zip file or a .mov file, video file. Like, most people aren't worried about a video file. They can be hacked, but it's not common.
Well,
So
this is the ultimate honey trap, isn't it?
yeah, so
Anyone
it's
who
kind of like,
registered on MOV, check them out.
yeah, yeah, because it's like the MOV, like you get it in an email and you think, oh, it's just a movie. Oh, I can look at that, right? Oh no, it could be a domain full of like really bad stuff. Just download it on your computer. So it is interesting and curious why they took those. Roger talks about that in the article, and I agree. It's kind of an odd choice for
You
domain.
know what? I would absolutely agree, and so much so it would make me want to stay away from them. But check out those other domains, and if you can, again, if you can afford to get it on the early gold rush, by all means, do it.
But yeah, if you're a
Monty
lawyer, get good.
Baumgartner will tell
Yeah.
you you could make a lot of money on domains.
But you can't cyber squat anymore. You can't buy somebody else's domain and ask them to pay a lot of money.
No, not really, but
Back in
if
the
you
early
come,
days, you could.
but if you were in yesterday for 12 grand to get greatest.dad,
Yeah,
you could,
you can sell that.
if you can't make 12 grand an hour off greatest.dad, where you're in the wrong business.
Well, heck, or just sell it on the market because somebody will pay, some corporation will pay, Father's Day, greatest.dad. Like, so.
Okay, so we got about 20 minutes left. We should jump to this is, I guess, our weekly John Mueller had to say what segment. John Mueller suggests, I wonder why, it's not a very good idea to disavow links based solely on third-party metrics. Now,
Yeah.
Now, John has been pretty much against disavowing links from the get-go, figuring that their power is somewhat negligible, and you might throw the power of bad links is somewhat negligible, and you might throw the baby out with the bathwater. The good links, the power of good links is still manifest. What do you think? Like disavow? What do you reckon?
Well, the disavow, I disagree with John. That's not useful because I work with sites that are being recovered or being attacked, and there are certain hacking things that can happen that will allow links to be counted. So, like, I worked with a $2 billion a year company who was ranking for a porn term and didn't realize it because it was the porn site was just letters, and it's because they also pushed 13 million Russian porn spam links towards the site where they're able to create pages off the search box. And make words on the page match the link, so Google didn't discount them. So there are times when you need the disavow. I agree with John. You do have to be careful. And I always cringe. I do a lot of judging for the award shows when someone's like, our DA value, our domain authority value, or our DR value. And I'm like, oh, those are just tool metrics. They don't mean anything. I mean, they're helpful for you to evaluate your own stuff, but they don't mean something to Google. They're not done the same way as Google. So you always have to be careful when you look at those tools that you don't disavow something. I just worked with a company a couple of weeks ago and I went through their disavow list. I'm like, some of these look like they should be counted. And she went through and she said, oh my gosh, yeah. And it wasn't a lot. It was like 15 or 20, but they were really big domains.
the baby in the bathwater.
Yeah. So unfortunately, like when Dave and I used to work together and we did penguin recovery, Dave used like 3 tools and his own crawler, and then hand went through the whole list before he created disavow. For anyone who doesn't know, penguin was one of the things penguin concentrated on was, link profiles. But
again, if I remember correctly, just I don't mean to interrupt, but something the Penguin settled on was, okay, we know we left webmasters out to dry for even a year at a time between updates, so our compromise is we're just not going to count the bad links anymore.
Right, but
wasn't that true?
That's what they did before Penguin. So before Penguin, you could get like someone would buy links and they would get a boost, and then like 3 or 4 months later they drop, and they'd be like, why? Well, because you bought links. Google takes a few months for Google to pick up all your links. They examined your profile, they disavowed your, they devalued your links. So now that value is gone. You have to buy again or do it right and just acquire them. So yeah, so Penguin was really brutal. But the point of that is Dave would never have just like used one tool and then taken the score from that tool and created a disavow list. He did 3 tools and his own crawler, and then he hand reviewed it to make sure nothing was eliminated that shouldn't be. Unfortunately, now with all the tools we have SEOs that don't have that history, and they will get the tool report and then they just start disavowing based on the tool report, not fully understanding that just because you don't know that domain or it sounds weird doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad domain. Also, in every domain link profile, there are going to be bad links. So if you have no bad links in your profile, that looks kind of weird too to Google, right? Because why do you have no bad links in your profile? Everyone has cruddy links. Someone scraped your site or, some blog system or whatever. But there are reasons to use it, but they're much scarcer than they used to be. And there still is a manual action for, bad links. So, but make sure, by the way, you can only access your disavow in Google Search Console with a URL prefix report. You can't do it from the domain report. So just if you're ever looking for it, you're like, where is it? If you only have a domain report in GSC, you won't be able to see it.
Here's one that we got a file under Google's wishful thinking. And this really actually this I don't understand this announcement. Google is okay, so if you're a writer and you get published in a number of different sources, your work is being syndicated. The original place where it was published is the place that it was originally published. Either it was on your blog or in a newspaper you work for or a publication or whatever. That's the again, that's the original piece. That should be the canonical, where everything is considered, and that's everything. Anyone who copies the article, republishes it, should have a canonical tag pointing back to the original source. That's been Google's advice forever, and that seems logical. So if the Winnipeg Star publishes something that its parent newspaper, the Toronto Star, republished, Winnipeg Star republishes it, canonical back to the Toronto Star, and Google knows that it's not duplicate content, but republished syndicated content. Apparently that's confusing for Google because they're now suggesting if content is syndicated that the syndicators no index the page.
And why would they do that?
I have no idea. That's what I'm confused about.
Yeah. So, by the way, Barry Adams.
Did I read that right?
Yes, you did. I was just
saying. So what the hell?
Barry Adams. I just want to get this out there for people if they want to look up the best practices for syndicated content, because Barry wrote an excellent article in 2021. He mentioned it on his website this week. And it's SEO for GoogleNews.com, SEO for GoogleNews.com. So he outlines it for people. But basically, yes, Google has been terrible about sourcing content. Now, personally, this is my personal thought, why are they so bad at it? They have a Twitter fire hose, right? They have news sitemaps. Why don't you just do a news sitemap fire hose and go, publish your sitemap before you publish your content, and we will know that is the original source of the content, and then we know that it's you. But they don't do that. So the canonical was supposed to tell Google where the source came from. One, not all syndicators use the canonical. A lot of times they leave it off. But the problem is these sites outrank the original content site a lot of the time because Google doesn't give them original source credit, right? Mm-hmm. So the problem is you have a smaller site that wrote really good content, and the bigger sites are getting all the traffic because they're outranking the smaller site. since Google can't do source content and it doesn't know how to really identify source content, even though it has the canonicals, it's just saying to no index, because that's the only way they can, this is my guess, because they didn't say this is the reason, but this is my guess. That's the only way they can prevent those other sites from outranking you on your own content.
But what publisher in their right mind is going to do that?
None, because I've worked with at least 7 large publishers, and a smaller site will write a great article, and then it goes out to the syndicate, and the syndicate site gets all the traffic. So why would they get rid of the ability to get all that traffic?
Why do they have your article in the first place? Because it draws traffic.
Exactly, and it's for smaller sites, it's really a lifeline for them, because it actually, their stuff gets out there, and they do get credited on the sites that it came from, yada yada site, but yeah, I just think Google, unfortunately, something like hreflang, they've never been able to solve the problem. I don't know why, but this one seems like an easy solve. If you can do index now and you can do Twitter fire hoses, why can't you just do a news map fire hose and say this is the original content? We give them the credit for that, but they don't. So
it's very, very, I mean, that one, of all the stories we have today, for some reason, that one just frustrates the heck out of me.
Yeah, because it's basically Google making a decision without understanding how the real world works.
Yeah.
And the real world, no publisher is going to no index content. They're syndicating. It's just not going to happen.
Okay. Here's an interesting one. One that users or SEO should definitely know about. Discovery is becoming a more important source of traffic, especially as Google looks to make its presence in the mobile environment more fun. I can't, well, seriously. So Google Discover won't show content that would be filtered out if you have safe search on. So don't expect well, anything that safe search would filter out is not going to be discovered for Google Discover. So there you go. It's important to know.
There you go.
And if you want to, so the hint there, you might want to look at safe search guidelines when it comes to stuff that will filter into Google Discover. Don't violate those guidelines.
There is a way to ask them to reconsider, but they're pretty confident if they've marked you as not safe that you're not safe.
Yeah, and if you have to ask Google to reconsider something they've considered, it's probably going to take a while.
Yeah.
Although, I have seen them. I've been playing around a lot with crawled but not indexed in crawl reports, and you can actually prompt if you fix the problems on your page, you can prompt action from Google pretty quickly. So you can appeal digitally. You just can't talk to them about it.
You got right.
Okay. So for the umpteenth time, EEAT is a concept, a really important concept, much like look both ways before you cross the road. You don't have to look both ways. You can still cross the road without looking both ways. But if you look both ways, you'll probably have better outcomes. Similarly, if you think about what Google has told its quality raters it wants to see in content, experienced, expertise, authoritative, and trustworthy content while you're writing it, while you're creating it, if these are your goals while you're making content. If you, like with reviews, you actually let people who've used the product make the reviews, stuff like that, you will probably do better in Google. But none of that is measured in any way as a ranking factor. It's all part of a greater formula, but you can't quantify any of those pieces.
Yeah, that's where people get kind of lost in the detail. So the quality raters guide is a QA document for people who don't understand how Google works, right? So Google makes an algorithm change and they send it out to a bunch of quality raters and they go, this is what we were trying to do, rate our results. And they use the quality rater guide details to help them rate the results that Google's looking for. That got out into the SEO world. I forget when it was, but it got leaked. And then Google just decided to keep publishing it to us, so we know it's there. But there's been confusion that the things in there are ranking signals. So it'll say something like use an author. It also says, by the way, you don't need an author, but people miss that. Use an author, right? Or someone with experience, but Google doesn't know that that person has experience. They're using other signals to determine that or determine if the content is good. So as Jim said, it's a concept, which is great, but don't go through the quality raters guide and start looking at every detail and going, oh, I must add this and I must add this because these are ranking.
Well, I'm going to say straight up with the word experience, when it comes to product reviews, Google's a stickler about this. Experience actually counts.
It does.
When it comes to product reviews, allow the people who bought the product and who went and used it in their backyard or their kitchen or their garage or wherever the heck they used it, allow them to review it. And if they're actual product users, Google will love you.
Yes, and I think, and also if you're writing a site about a product and you're doing reviews yourself, you want to make sure you have, like, let's say it's golf. You have a golf pro that talks about the specific, use of that club, how they used it, what they liked about it. But remember, Google is not looking at that golf pro and going, we know who this golf pro is, and now we know its experience. They're using their, their machine learning, most likely. And I'm going to guess, this is just me, that they check the entities and their semantic relationships. Like if I write about golf and I know about golf, I'm going to write closer to the topic.
Exactly. Oh my God, I was saying this months ago. If you're an expert in a certain topic, you're going to write about it in a certain way.
Yes, and Google can evaluate that with their machine learning without having to know who every author or expert is in the world. How would they ever do that, by the way? But they can tell by the machine learning because they have the topical mesh, and they know that if you know about these things, you're going to be using these kind of terms for these kind of relationships. And so someone on Fiverr who has no experience isn't going to probably do that well, but the golf pro is. So then Google can rate that it has experience plus your grammar, right? I used, I did, we did, I saw, that kind of thing. So, but that's
there
where
you go. But Jack Nicklaus, who is a much better golfer, Tiger Woods, who is a much better golfer than I am, will not rank for better content than I will about how a golf club or a golf swing works, how a course was, or whatever, just because they're Jack Nicholson or Tiger Woods. They'll rank better than me because they know the subject better.
Well, and also, so I always say to people that I consult with,
Mind you, I know golf.
You need your writers to write with experience, but they don't have to be experts. So if I have a writer that's good, like you're a great writer, Jim.
Well, I was about to say, mind you, I know golf and I can write really well.
Yeah, but I could say, like, because you write about golf and you go, I'll research golf and I will see what I need to know and I will write that. And that's writing with expertise and experience. And that's what Google's looking for. Google's not looking for you to get Jack Nicholson to write a $10,000 article. Although if you did, you'd get more traffic only because Jack Nicholson's name would be out there that he wrote this article. Because sometimes people use famous authors and they go, see, we got a boost. They know the author. No, the author has a much bigger search visibility. Their knowledge graph is much wider than, nobody. So that's why you might get more traffic out of that. But yeah, exactly. So it's writing with experience, writing with expertise, not that you have to go pay someone $10,000 to write you an article.
So importantly, Google talked about how its systems identify and suss out content that, and here's the cool thing, when addressing EEAT, they actually used the phrase helpful, the word, I should say, helpful. So they didn't say that they're using their systems to prioritize content that seems to be based on EEAT, expertise, experience, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. They talk about helpfulness. So think of EEAT, the sum of all of that put together is helpfulness, getting the user from point A to point B with a lot of good knowledge.
Yes, and let's add just one last thing to this. I'm not saying we know this. I'm just saying this is my thought, but that the new guidelines Google's putting out for content plus adding experience to EAT, I think is because that differentiates it from AI content without knowing it's AI content. There's also other content out there that doesn't write well and it would also be affected, like say in a helpful content update. But I do think it's a way to differentiate between just straight ChatGPT. We edited a little and threw it on the web, and then actual, real, useful, helpful content.
And by the way, Google's already being inundated with crap tons of AI content.
Yeah.
So we're going to see its effect really soon. That's gonna get quite interesting. Okay, I think we got time for like one more, and let's do this on a sort of a hopeful thing. We've ragged on TikTok a lot because of it as being a massive security concern, and it is. But you can't let a story like this go past without mentioning it. For certain publishers, and you got to be a premium publisher to get this deal from TikTok, but it suggests that other good deals for other tiers of publishers are coming. TikTok's new ad product is going to give premium publishers a 50% stake in ad revenues. Now, Google Ads has done that for years. Done a very easy 50-50 split with the webmaster. But in this environment, I don't think YouTube gives a deal like that. In this environment, to give publishers 50% of such volume, that's an extraordinary deal.
It is. And also on top of that, if you're a super influencer on TikTok, or they just decide, there is a manual button that gives you super push into the network. So it's a great deal for TikTok because they can use those influencers in your profile, but they'll probably also be using the super boost with the ad stuff. So they'll make more money.
It's again, this specific offering is for super premium publishers. We're talking at the Condé Nast, BuzzFeed, and NBC level. But again, it's highly likely that this will flow down to other content creators in the future, or better rev splits. Given that many people are making their living on just being guides to life these days.
Yeah.
This is news you got to know.
It is. It's definitely. At least they're sharing. They may be taking all our data, but at least they're giving money back.
Okay, last point. While we were preparing the show today, we were we do a lot of work in Google Sheets, and Google, Microsoft, everybody is introducing AIs to their offerings. One of the cool experiences I had, Kristine often uses short forms for Microsoft, for Google, whatever, GEOG or MSFT for Microsoft, and it's just, shorthand that everybody uses. I draw my mouse over one of her notes. Has MSFT, Microsoft. That's the stock tick symbol for them, though. As I drew my mouse over it, suddenly a quick graph comes up and a whole bunch of like immediate stock information fills in. I've never seen it happen in Google Sheets. That happened in Google Sheets before. Introduction of AI products to everything around us is happening really, really, really rapidly. And I think our experiences with a bunch of the products that we use, especially ones that are in the service as a software universe, are about to fundamentally and radically change. And that was just a fun experience while putting this very show together.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't replicate it, but that does sound pretty cool.
You know what? It might be the machine I'm on, or the account that I'm accessing. I'm accessing not my personal account, but through my business account. So it might be that.
Yeah. Plus, I'm on a Mac.
Plus, you're on a Mac, yeah.
Plus, I'm on a Mac.
Us PC people get everything these days, eh? Including viruses.
Exactly.
Check out Microsoft. Bing and Edge are bringing tons of AI to pretty much everything you do, and they're opening it up to third-party developer integration. I don't know what future of search is now. I'm hoping it's friendly.
Yeah, let's hope.
By the way, just so people are widely aware, as of the time of this recording, there is 57 days, 9 hours, and 0 minutes to update to GA4 from UA3, because we've gone full clock. It's top of the hour at time of recording. So on behalf of Kristine Shachinger from Sites Without Walls, this is Jim Hedger from Digital Always Media. You've been listening to Webcology on WMR.fm on the 4th of May, 2023. May the 4th be with you. Be well, be kind, rank well, and stay healthy. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye, everybody.
The opinions expressed on this program are those of the guests and hosts and do not necessarily reflect those of webmasterradio.fm's management or sponsors. Any rebroadcast or redistribution without authorized consent of webmasterradio.fm is prohibited.
The new Chevy Silverado HD puts you in command. Own strength with its enhanced available Duramax 6.6-liter turbo diesel V8. Own the lake with its available advanced towing technology. And own technology with an available 13.4-inch diagonal touchscreen. The new Chevy Silverado HD. Own work, own play, own life. Learn more at Chevy.com. Find new roads. Chevrolet.
When you download the Kroger app, you have easy access to savings every day. Shop weekly sales and get personalized coupons to get the most value out of every trip, every time, whether you shop in-store or online. Download the Kroger app now to save big. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Must have a digital account to redeem offers. Restrictions may apply. See site for details.
Save big on your favorites with the Buy 5 or More, Save $1 each sale. Simply buy 5 or more participating items and save $1 each with your card. Kroger, fresh for everyone.